Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about why the Mangekyou Sharingan reawakening of Sarada Uchiha is something that was needed for Sarada's growth to walk down that roadmap that will eventually lead to her becoming Hokage and the first Uchiha to ever become Hokage, doing what others before her all failed to do. And to accomplish this, I want to compare her to some of the Hokage who came before her, as well as some of the past Uchiha. As a quick reminder, the chapter review is up on the channel, so don't forget to check that out if you haven't already. And also consider checking out the video I have on my Everything One Piece Explained channel, going over the Pika Pika no Mi Devil Fruit, as well as the new video on Anime Explained, breaking down every member of Fire Force Company 8, which is completely safe for anime-only fans of Fire Force. So let's break down Sarada Uchiha's journey into a stage-by-stage development, and we're going to be using the Boruto Anime Academy arc as a starting point. We're also going to be using key arcs from Boruto Part 1 as well as Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. We're also going to be looking at a thematic and a character growth. We're going to basically analyze everything per phase. So Sarada Uchiha is basically the Hokage in the making, and it really makes sense when you map out her growth rate. The first stage is the Seed of Ambition. That's going to be the Academy arc and what you saw in Naruto Gaiden, the 7th Hokage in the Scarlet Spring, better known as the Shin Uchiha arc. Sarada's role in that was a student and a aspiring ninja. She was skeptical of Boruto's antics, and she eventually realized she wanted to be a Hokage like Naruto. The key traits that you saw was her discipline and her pride, and her desire for recognition. The narrative milestone that we saw was highlighted in this last chapter, where we see the flashback where she's declaring her dream of becoming Hokage because she is inspired by Naruto. That is completely contrasted with Boruto's rebelliousness. Then it gets even further when you look into Inheritance, which is basically Naruto Gaiden. So that'd be episodes 17 to 24 through what we saw in Boruto's anime. So she's struggling with her parentage, and she's wondering if she's truly Sasuke and Sakura's daughter. The theme and the emotional traits that we see, or the key traits we see, are emotional maturity, empathy, and eventually understanding the balance of love versus duty. The milestone that we had the narrative is basically reuniting with Sasuke, understanding what it means to truly be a shinobi after the conversation she has with Sasuke off screen, and she eventually reaffirms her identity. Then when we get into the versus Momoshiki arc and the Vessel arc, so this will be Boruto chapters 1 through 23, the core team building and tactical growth is what we basically saw in terms of stages here. She became a team leader, basically. She's proving tactical prowess. She is clashing with Boruto's impulsiveness at times. Even though Konoha was leading, you could look at this and see the signs of a leader in Sarada. She displayed leadership, she displayed tactical ability, and she displayed responsibility. She earned praise more than once throughout these arcs, and she did showcase Hokage potential. She also was able to witness world level threats. That will be the next stage that we have, and this will be the Kawaki arc and the Ishiki arc, which are basically chapters 24 through 55. What we saw in terms of her role was that she was supporting Boruto. She was growing to accept Kawaki. She was trying to protect the village where she could, but she was feeling outclassed by these god tier enemies. It became very clear when Team 7 was struggling with base Boro, and then once he transformed, he just needed one hit and he took all of them out. And then she saw Momoshiki take over Boruto's body, and it was something that just made it clear she's not on that level yet. The key traits that she developed were loyalty, dedication, and frustration at her own limitations. She was watching for a narrative perspective, watching as Naruto and Sasuke were battling these gods, and she was watching as gods were taking over Boruto, and she was learning that Boruto and Kawaki were right there on the battlefield with Naruto and Sasuke at one point. The next stage is what we call the emotional crescendo. So my music heads know what a crescendo is. Basically, it's what we would call a climax, if you will. The omnipotence event in Boruto's exile. So this would basically be everything from chapter 56, where we saw her clashing with Kawaki, all the way up to chapter 80, where she awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan. The key thing to remember here is that she is the only one who truly remembers, or rather she's one of the only ones who truly remembers who Boruto is. She is begging Sasuke to help him. She is shaken by the death of Naruto. The themes that you have are faith and love and despair, and most importantly, the first seeds of defiance. She climaxed with all this by awakening the Mangekyou Sharingan for the first time, and that emotional crescendo of despair, trauma, and passion and love. The next stage that we saw, which is where we start moving downward, is the crisis of relevance and stagnation. So this would be everything that happens in the time skip off screen up to what we saw in the beginning of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex. She was training off screen, yet at the same time she's feeling increased pressure as a matter of Boruto's path. It's growing in terms of it being mythic, because she knows Boruto's out there training somewhere and she knows everyone wants to hunt him down. She wants to support Boruto, but she's got a miniature tyrant in Kawaki right there in the village that she also has to worry about. What we're seeing and what we saw basically off screen is that she was dealing with insecurity, and there's a self-imposed training arc that was done. She was being regulated to a support role, if you will. She was often someone who we come to expect her to be sidelined in combat, despite her mixing it up in part 1, but that's the fan perception of her. And we see tension building over when she'll finally act. Everyone wanted to see that Mangekyou Sharingan, and yet she was doing so much damage with just a 3-tomo Sharingan. The next stage, which is where we're currently at, is that Shinju arc that we have in the Land of Wind. She's taking charge. She's protecting Shinki's team members in Araya and Yodo where she can, and then once she falters, it results in Yodo dying, and she ends up defeating Ryu with her awakened power. We see resolve, we see warriorhood, we see a sense of sacrifice, we see a balance of emotion and logic. We see her accepting herself for the first time. She has now fully earned her Mangekyou in battle, and she shows battlefield leadership. She becomes Boruto's equal in this new timeline quest that Kashin Koji has everyone on. This growth curve is basically something you can sum up as her going from being an idealist to a protector. Sarada's arc, it follows that natural but extremely satisfying emotional and tactical development curve. The trait that we saw was leadership. The early arc for her was she was aspiring, she was idealistic, but now she is practiced and she is experienced when it comes to handling loss. The trait was power. The early arc was the Sharingan in Taijutsu and being reliant on teamwork. Right now she has the Mangekyou Sharingan, she has the battle IQ, and we can now officially call her a Shinju Slayer. Merch coming soon. Then you have the emotional maturity. The early arc for that was sensitive to rejection, heritage, and then right now we have her enduring death and betrayal and strategic burdens. The trait before was the moral compass. Back then she was learning to distinguish admiration from reality. Right now she understands the importance of sacrifice, the cost of sacrifice, and she is making critical battlefield decisions. She's not dragging things out with Ryu. She goes right for the kill after she comes to accept who she is. She had to talk through her emotions, and being blunt, that's not uncommon for a teenage girl in her age range. A lot of times they talk in circles before they get to the point, at least in my experience. If you're one of the 9% of women on this channel who are watching this video, or if you're part of that 30% from Anime Explained that are female viewers, if this doesn't apply to you, please don't take it that way. The other trait that you have is Hokage readiness. The early arc was dreamer with conviction. Right now we have a field-proven leader who has emotional depth added to her. When we start looking at the past Hokage candidates that we had in the past, the men and women who eventually became Hokage, let's line her up with those Hokage and look at similar moments in their journey. So for Naruto, at the end of part 1, a similar point in his development was just after Sasuke leaves. He was burdened with dreams, but he was lacking strength. The themes that Sarada shares with him right now is faith in others and emotional awakening. With Kakashi, during the War Arc era flashbacks, he's coping with Obito's death. He's learning how to lead through loss, and he's sharing this theme with Sarada because Sarada's balancing emotion with emotional and tactical leadership, with Tsunade as a Sannin before return. She was showing that she was refusing the Hokage title due to her past trauma. However, interacting with Naruto eventually reconnected her with her will of fire. What that does with Sarada is that she is learning to embrace the role despite any grief. With Minato, pre-Ninetales, basically what we saw with Minato was he was a golden boy, he was logical, he was a tactical leader preparing for war, but even Minato had mistakes that he made. Rin can speak to that. However, what that's being shared with Sarada is a calm battlefield leadership, a trusting comrade's potential, and most importantly, she is learning to deal with loss the same way that Minato did. Loss that is self-inflicted, because just as Minato might have been able to save Rin, might have been able to stop Obito from getting crushed had he been a few seconds too soon, the same thing is true for Sarada. Had she truly acknowledged herself before this, she would have had her Mangekyou and Ryu would not have stood a chance. With Sarada, she is shaping up as being the most balanced Hokage candidate since Minato. She is capable of tactical brilliance along with moral clarity, and she is now finally earning the raw emotional pain that shapes every real shinobi leader that we had. Sarada's journey, when you cap it with Yodo's death and her reawakening, it represents the truest synthesis of the Uchiha and the Hokage past. Whereas past Uchiha were broken by death, driven into revenge by death, Sarada is forged by it. She does not fall into that vengeance. She turns loss into clarity, as we saw. Unlike Kashin Koji, who sees everyone as a pawn, Sarada believes that every life matters, even when the mission says otherwise. That is why Boruto needs her, not as a comrade, but as a future Hokage who will protect the world he's trying to save, as a future Shadow Hokage. The thematic goal that we have here, it is going underrated by a lot of fans in my opinion, and the most important long game narrative payoff in Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is being set up. Let's take a look and break down even further all these layers, because Sarada becoming the first Uchiha Hokage and only the second female Hokage, it isn't just symbolic, but it's also emotional and philosophical closure for the Naruto saga that has always been heading towards, and given 2 Blue Vortex is gonna be the last thing we see in the Naruto franchise. Ikimoto's already said years ago that he has a end date in mind for Boruto. I don't think we're getting a Naruto Part 4. However, let's get back on track for a second. So let's start with the core wound of the Naruto story, the cycle of hatred that defined Uchiha and their relationship to the village. Hashirama and Madara, they are the founders of Konoha. They are supposed to symbolize peace between the Uchiha and the Senju, but it quickly fell apart when Madara was rejected by the feudal lord and he heard Tobirama be the ultimate hater in private. It led him down a path of vengeance. Then you had the Thuia Massacre, the most traumatic and defining event for Sasuke's generation, in particular for Sasuke in general. His entire clan, it was wiped out by his brother Itachi under orders from Konoha's elders. Basically, he had to protect the village at the cost of his loved ones. That betrayal of trust made Uchiha synonymous with rebellion and instability. Rebellion for those who knew the truth about why Itachi did it, and instability because everyone in the village looked at Itachi and said, this dude went cuckoo and killed everybody. With Sasuke's arc, he spent most of the original Naruto series trying to destroy Konoha for what it did to his clan. Even after Naruto redeems him, Sasuke, he never fully reintegrates into the village. When we look at it, it's not just in the light novels that I've covered here on the channel, but if you go back to what was happening when Sasuke was looking at the claw marks, notice how they're not speaking to Sasuke with a form of honor. They're referring to him as, hey Uchiha, what are you doing? They are questioning him. Sasuke has to humble himself and say, I have no rank or authority here, because Sasuke is basically on probation. Those guys might as well have been his probation officer. Sasuke, despite how talented he was, how strong he was, he had absolutely no say in the matter. He had to let the chips fall where they fall. His perception is his perception, no Shador Sanders. Sasuke, that's a big part of the reason why he feels like he needs redemption. That's why he went into exile. That's why he chooses to wander to protect from the shadows. It's a kind of cursed atonement. Whether or not you want to argue that Sasuke has more than made up for his sins, that's irrelevant. That's how Sasuke feels. The Uchiha, they have always been painted as too emotional lead, too unstable to be trusted, and too dangerous to be given power. But then we have Sarada. She's changing all that. Sarada becoming Hokage, that's going to break that cycle. Sarada's story is the answer to all this trauma. Generations of trauma for the Uchiha. Her becoming Hokage is the ultimate yes to every no that the world ever gave to her clan. She's proving that the Uchiha emotion, it isn't a curse, it's their power, just as Tobirama theorized. Sarada is driven by love. She's driven by friendship. She's driven by hope. She is not driven by vengeance. She awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan not through hatred or revenge, but through compassion, grief, and devotion. First for Boruto, and then when Yodo died. She symbolizes reconciliation. She was born from Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura Haruno. The Haruno obviously being a random normie clan, but she is a trusted citizen of Konoha. She was inspired by Naruto. She was mentored by Sakura. She was trained by Konohamaru. She was loved by Boruto. She bridges every core of family and philosophy in the series. She takes the dream of Hokage and she makes it inclusive. The dream started with Hashirama, but that title, it kept the Uchiha and it kept them at a distance, and it was passed down through the Senju ideological line. Sarada has a chance to break away from that, in the sense that she would be the first Uchiha to ever get that title, even though she does have connections to the Senju clan just because of the Sensei tree. Konohamaru was the grandson of the third Hokage. The third Hokage was a student of Hashirama and of Tobirama. She's the daughter of Sakura. Sakura was trained by Tsunade. Tsunade was trained by Hiruzen. Hiruzen, again, was trained by Hashirama and Tobirama. Sarada doesn't just inherit Naruto's will of fire. She's reforming it by including the Uchiha, being the one who could truly do that, and she is showing that their legacy belongs at the very heart of Konoha. What Sarada stands for as a future Hokage is that the village will finally atone for what it did to her clan, not with apologies, but with trust, with love. The significance of her being the second female Hokage, it should not go underestimated at all. There's a powerful gender symbolism here. Tsunade was a reluctant Hokage. She was haunted by death of her loved ones. She accepted the role only after being moved by Naruto's unwavering belief. Sarada, on the other hand, she is different. If Tsunade is the yang, then Sarada is the yin. She wanted this from day one. She dreamed of it, she trained for it, and she is earning it. One was reluctant, the other one is willing. Sarada isn't the reluctant protector, she is the prepared one, she is the willing one. And unlike some female characters whose arcs they get overshadowed by romance or support roles, despite what we have some disingenuous people trying to say that her whole arc is boiled down to "I love Boruto now," disingenuous assholes stand beside Boruto, not behind him. She is being set to uplift others, not only as a healer, but also as a nurturer, and most importantly, as a warrior leader. This helps her correct the long-standing shonen tropes of sidelining women in the climactic parts of a story. It's a generational bookend to Naruto and Sasuke, and most importantly, it's talking about closure here. With Naruto, his role back then was basically the outcast pariah that everyone was afraid of, turned into a hero who earned love and became Hokage. His role now, he was sealed away. He was a symbol of peace when he was sealed away. Sasuke was the avenger who rejected the village. Sarada, now he is the fallen protector whose legacy rests with his daughter and with Boruto. Sarada is basically an ideological child of both paths. She is the one who unifies them and raises them from their ashes when they get unsealed. In a way, Sarada becoming Hokage says that Naruto's dream was worth it, and Sasuke's pain, it was not in vain. The world, it can change. That's almost bars depending on how you say it. Now, she wasn't trying to intimidate them either. She's becoming the synthesis of what they never could be. Naruto always fought for recognition. She has always fought against betrayal, something that succumbed her father because her father felt betrayed by Konoha and said, we got to blow this place up. Sarada represents a generation that no longer needs to fight to be trusted. This is thematically the final break in that cycle of hatred. Naruto and Sasuke broke it. Sarada is about to bury it. This brings home Naruto's core message that hatred breeds more hatred. Someone must endure the pain and rise above it. Naruto was that person, but even he couldn't fully erase all the sins from the past. It had to be someone born into this new system that Naruto and Sasuke created by breaking the cycle of hatred. Someone who has experienced both legacy and loss. That person is Sarada. It's a natural progression. By making her Hokage, Boruto 2 Blue Vortex wouldn't just be continuing the story, it'll be completing the story, and it'll be burying the very cycle of hatred that was dooming so many people up until this point in time. In conclusion, I will say this: Sarada becoming the Hokage, it is a poetic justice, it is a thematic closure, it is a hopeful village. The Uchiha, they started the village in the form of Madara, and now an Uchiha will finally lead it. They are a clan that was known for revenge, but that same clan has given rise to a Hokage born of forgiveness and resolve, which by that I mean a future Hokage. That's why it had to be Sakura who had Sasuke's child. The world of Naruto, once divided by blood and fear, is unified through Sarada's courage and compassion. The world, very slowly, when you look at it now that Naruto's sealed away, there are cracks that are appearing. We have been told the other Kage are getting restless. We see the feudal lord getting restless. The elders are getting restless. The other villages are questioning Shikamaru's leadership. The Hokage, up until this point in time, has always been deemed the strongest out of the 5 Kage, and most importantly, the Hokage in the 4th Ninja War as well as in the leadership, they always were viewed as being leaders. Even with Raikage A calling the shots, we saw Tsunade at times step up into a leadership role. With Kakashi post Ninja War and Naruto post Ninja War, that was unquestioned. Sarada has the chance to make all this right again. She doesn't just end the cycle of hatred, she proves it never needed to exist in the first place, and she's going to prove that by burying it. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and checking out more videos from Naruto Explained by clicking here on the left, or click here up top for that Everything One Piece Explained video, or click here on the right for this new video from Anime Explained breaking down every member of Fire Force Company 8.